So I think we have to be aware that the reasoning that some people are using things like fake news is to put their often non-expert view ahead of an expert view. And they do that simply by trying to discredit an expert. But we have to come back and look at the credentials, if you like, of that expert versus the person who isn't expert. And we have to be careful that we don't expect all scientists to have the same view. Usually there will be a consensus and a leading view that is broadly accepted, but in science we're also tolerant of people that have views on the fringes of that central view, and in that case we acknowledge and understand that those are fringe views, but we don't immediately go to a fringe view and say that this is mainstream. There's a perspective that this is on the fringe. I think scientists who are used to communicating to other experts have to learn how to engage with the general public. Most science ultimately affects the general public, and so there's a responsibility just to communicate in a simple and clear way, and not in a condescending way, but to bring that expert knowledge and to describe it in a way that everyone can understand. And it's not the responsibility of the public to get upskilled, it is a responsibility of scientists to create an analogy or an explanation that enables the general public to understand what they do. In the past, scientists only talked to other scientists. Those days are gone. These days they have a responsibility to talk to the scientists, but they also have a responsibility to communicate to the general public. And if they're going to do that, there are other skills such as storytelling that are essential to do that well.
So just turning to your role here at ESR, what are your early impressions of this organisation?
Well, I think ESR has some great scientists and some great science, and probably the most compelling piece is its relevance. ESR is about forensics, it's about water, it's about environment, and it's about health. And that touches all of us. And so that's probably the overwhelming impression of relevance to the New Zealand economy and relevance to just individual New Zealanders. We do things that matter.
Where would you like to see communities benefit most from science?
I'd like them to be able to see and recognise that ESR had a key role in creating and sustaining those environments. I'd like them to think of health, and when people get infections, that ESR has had a pivotal role in understanding those infections, the right antibiotics to use to prevent infection with the flu vaccine. With forensics, where there's crimes committed, then ESR has a central role in bringing the perpetrator to justice. So I'd like ESR to have the relevance right close to people's lives.
Just ask you a question about Chernobyl. Did you learn anything from that visit?
Yeah, the main thing I learnt is that if you're running a nuclear reactor, you shouldn't blow it up. It seems kind of straightforward, but interestingly, that wasn't the mindset at the time. And some of the learnings that came out of it were things like, if you have safety systems at a nuclear reactor, you shouldn't be able to turn them off. And that also is a mindset piece. So when you look at what happened at Chernobyl, sure there were failings like turning the safety systems off, but the thing that led to all of that was mindset. And so I'm a great believer in mindset.
The other thing I want to know is, have you spoken to the people at ESR Radiation Services, and are you going to have a particular interest in those folk?
Look, you know, I shouldn't be saying this, but I have a soft spot for the people in radiation. Just because of my background, I was head of radiology at the University of Auckland. It's a really interesting technology. It's interesting politically because New Zealand is nuclear free. It's interesting because radiation provides such benefit to our healthcare. And it's also interesting in that if radiation and X-rays and CT scanning was invented today, it probably would not have passed the FDA regulations and would not have become a treatment for us. So that just sort of makes me pause to think about how risk averse we may have become in some areas.